Hi, everyone. Don Famularo here, back here for Sabian and the SEN program, which is the Sabian Education Network. And this is managed by Joe Bergamini, who does a fantastic job. Joe was a former student of mine who has gone on to play, when they say the student outplays the teacher. Well, Joe has gone on to do that. And many of my students that I've had on this show are doing the same thing, including who I want to introduce to you right now. Would you all please welcome Kat Wall from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks for joining us. This is kind of interesting because this allows me to spotlight an educator. And I think the good thing about this here is that it allows me to spotlight an educator that really is dedicated to what you're doing. In the throes of what you're doing, you are teaching, heavily going on. You're playing with several bands. And the good thing about the pandemic in New Zealand is that you're kind of past a lot of what the challenges that other countries are having.
At this stage, yes, touch wood, that we keep in the current position that we're in. I'm fortunate enough to be able to go back to teaching in schools, and I'm able to gig at the moment, which I'm really thankful for. I've learned never to take a gig for granted. It's really, every time I go out and play now, I'm like, wow, I'm getting to go out there and do this. So yeah, absolutely. We're very lucky here at the moment.
Well, I think part of the learning process here is the reason why you're lucky is because your prime minister, your fantastic leader that you have in that country, really shut down the country early and took all the precautions of the masks and the distancing so well and so enforced, and everyone kind of followed it.
Absolutely. Jacinda managed it really well, I think, and it's just, and we sort of united as a team, and we did not want COVID to get in here. So we're very lucky that we did all unite in that way and managed to keep it under control.
But even there were many people that were traveling to New Zealand. There's a lot of movie. The movie industry is still huge in New Zealand, and a lot of the U.S. companies fly to New Zealand to do some movies. But even then, you guys were really, protective and cautious and quarantine these people. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there is a quarantine at the border. So it's 14 days in a hotel before you're allowed to go on your way into the country. So that's definitely helping us stop it before it gets in.
Well, that really made a big difference because it controlled any of the virus that was in the country, and those people that may have had it, it was able to allow them to get to them at an early stage. So they got past it. So I think, anyway, what you guys did was great. And now you're back to performing and teaching, and it's working. I mean, unfortunately, here in America, we've been a bit backwards in how this has been handled. And in America, we have over 200,000 people that have died from the virus, and it's still pretty serious. And although the numbers went down these past few weeks, now in this current time, because it's getting cooler here, now the numbers are starting to go back up. So we still don't have that accessibility of teaching people and having them going to the schools to teach or having certain gigs being played. So you've got a great advantage there.
Yeah.
Now, I want people to understand that, I've been to New Zealand several times, and there's basically two major islands, the North Island and the South Island. And the North Island, there's Auckland and Wellington, two major, big cities in there. And probably the biggest city on the Southern Island is Christchurch.
Yes. Yeah, we're midway. We're in the middle of the South Island.
So with that, you're living in a city on the South Island that really has accessibility to a lot of stuff. You got a lot of schools, a lot of clubs, a lot of actions going on in Christchurch.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate enough, I teach at 5 primary schools. I teach students from the age of around 7 through to 13 at the primary schools. That's equivalent to elementary in the US. So, yeah. And I teach, and they're actually all quite close to where I live. They're within sort of a 10-minute drive or a 10-minute bike ride in some cases. So just they're all nice and close and really accessible. And then, yeah, I also have venues. There's quite a few venues, pubs and clubs around Christchurch that I play in with a couple of my cover bands. I've got 2 cover bands that I play in. And one of them we're starting to get into some original stuff as well, which is really cool.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So I want to get into the band stuff later on. Tell me about first how you started. It's so great to have as more females get involved with playing. It is so exciting to see the workings of players like yourself that are out there playing, that are making it happen, that are leaders now in the community. This is extremely, extremely great. So tell me, what got you involved in drumming in the first place?
Well, it was actually my younger brother. I don't know if you know about this, Don, but in my last year of high school, because I started a little later than a lot of drummers do. I was in my final year of high school, and I was kind of a bit conflicted about what I wanted to do with my life, because I was getting kind of led down a certain path with my academic subjects that I'd chosen and what people were suggesting I should do. But I was thinking, I'm not feeling it. I don't really want to go down that way. I was being led towards either medicine or engineering or science. And whilst I had a passing interest in some of those subjects, it wasn't something I was really passionate about. And so I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I hadn't studied music in high school. All I'd done is a bit of piano when I was a kid. But I was really into Meatloaf. Meatloaf was like my jam. When I was a teenager, it was all about Meatloaf. Ask anyone in my family, and they probably wanted to throw the CD out the car window,
That's terrible.
Yeah. So John Michelli was like, oh man, he's the guy. He's a wonderful drummer, and so I was a big fan of Meatloaf and his backing band, the Neverland Express. And so I was like, you know what? I'd really love to be a musician. I'd love to be a drummer. And my brother played drums. So there was a drum kit upstairs, and so I said to him, I said, hey bro, would you teach me how to play drums? And he's like, yeah, sure. He was like 13 at the time, 13, 14. He thought it was great. He's like, you're going to teach his older sister something. So I went up there, and he gave me some lessons, like just got me started on some basic rock beats and things, and he helped me to write out one of Meatloaf's songs, "Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back." He helped me write out the groove for that, and then so I did that, and we actually, because he was at the stage where he was more into mountain biking than he was into drumming, and so he was getting a little bit tired of practicing every day. So we worked out a scheme where he'd go up to his room to practice, and then I'd sneak up after him, and I would do his practice for him, and he'd just lie on his bed and play his Game Boy for an hour or so. So Mum was really happy. She thought he was doing fantastically well. He's practicing an hour a day. She said to his poor teacher, oh yeah, he's doing great. His poor drum teacher was so confused, because he wasn't progressing. And so eventually we did get busted. I mean, Mum's pretty onto it. And the drum teacher, because I would hang out, I'd sneak out while he was having his lesson, because he had his lesson in our house, in his room. And so I'd sneak up and I'd listen outside the door. But there were a couple of times when his teacher actually came out to go to the bathroom and saw me just sitting in the hallway. So I think he kind of maybe said to Mum, oh, is your daughter interested in drums by any chance? Because there's something going on here. So that was the first thing, but then it wasn't very well received with my family. They weren't like, oh, wow, you can keep going, we'll get you lessons too. It wasn't like that, because I had other commitments and other sort of things I was supposed to be focusing on. So I got shut down. But then eventually the next year, when I was in my first year at university studying engineering, I discovered pipe band. My mum actually saw an ad in the paper. So I went along to a Scottish pipe band, a local one. It was the Scottish Society of New Zealand Pipe Band, and I started learning there and doing pipe band drumming. So that became my focus for the next few years.
Interesting. So the pipe band drumming. So now they obviously worked on certain routines and exercises for your hands. So this probably was a great chance for getting your hands together.
Yes, absolutely. It's all rudiments and basically one drum. So I was playing at home I'd practice on a drum pad all the time, and then we'd play on drum pad and then on the drum at rehearsals. And it was a really great foundation in rudiments and technique and hand speed. I learned traditional grip, of course, because pipe band traditional grip. So I did have to, when I went back to drum kit, it would have been 7 years later or so, I had to get my left hand up to speed with match grip, overhand grip as well, which was luckily I am left-handed, so I think that was a bit of an advantage for me. So that was good. But yes, it was a great foundation.
So being left-handed, traditional grip you were playing. So when you went to match grip on the drum set, how did your left hand feel?
It felt a little strange. Like I definitely didn't have the control that I had with my right hand playing match grip, because when I first started pipe band drumming, before I was sort of, experimenting, and I found that my left hand was better with my match grip when I was playing around with it than my right hand was. But then when I went to actually play match grip 7 years later, oh man, there was a big difference there. So I'm still working on my left hand, just catching up my finger control, and also continuing to work on my right hand, because if I'm left-handed, then my right hand is technically weaker than it could be. So just working a lot on that at the moment.
How fantastic. So now, how long were you with the pipe drumming?
So I started in 2003, or very late 2002, and then I played until March 2014. So I was there did that for a long time, and I was fortunate enough to actually go across to Scotland and Canada with pipe band as well. So it was really cool. I got to meet heaps of people from all around the world. It was really cool.
Now, are you familiar with Rhythm Monster?
Yes.
That's kind of like a pipe band organization that is just fantastically organized worldwide.
Yes. Yeah. I know a few of the drum corps and drummers who've been featured on it. Are drummers that I know and am familiar with from when I was actually actively involved in pipe band.
Wow. So now, what was happening? Were you taking any drum set lessons at the time at all during that time?
No, I started taking drum set lessons in 2010, so 10 years ago. And so that was with Greg Donaldson. He's a local teacher here in Christchurch. Really cool guy. So that was 10 years ago this year, actually.
Greg, I think Greg's been around for a while. How old is Greg?
Oh, I would say he's probably in his 50s now. I would say.
Yeah, maybe 20 plus years ago when I started going to New Zealand. I think I might have met Greg at one of my events that I did. And he was one of the main teachers there. Boy, that's fantastic that you had that experience with him. Boy, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
So what was he taking you through on the drum set?
So we basically, because when I went along to a lesson and I showed him what I could do, and I had an understanding of basic rock. So, I could play rock grooves and some simple rock fills, but I hadn't ever played drum kit in a band before, and I hadn't sort of played to music before or done anything like that. Of course, I'd done a lot of pipe band. I was playing at a high level in pipe band, but I was a rookie when it came to drum kit, really. So he started me off. He gave me a song. My first song with Greg was "Living on a Prayer," actually, Bon Jovi, and so he sent me away with the sheet music to that. I had great fun learning that one, and then we got into a little bit of intro to jazz, just getting used to the swing, and I couldn't at that point I could not swing. Like it was quite amusing, because coming from pipe band, it's technique, it's rudimental, it's written, you play exactly what's written on the page, and it's written out for you, so there's no sort of interpretation. Well, there's obviously dynamic interpretation, but basically you play what's written and you're on one drum. That was an adjustment as well, having a whole array of cool stuff to play. Like, it was great. But and you know, it was an adjustment to learn to groove, and to learn to feel the music a little more. Like, I do have a natural feel, but to sort of translate that to drum kit, I needed a bit of guidance there. So Greg and another tutor, Ronna, he helped me a lot with my groove as well, because Greg actually recommended I go to study at a local music school under Ronna, because he's a fantastic groove based player. And so yeah, I went and worked on that a lot. I did a little bit of Latin and Afro-Cuban with Greg as well, just an introduction to it. And so that kind of sort of opened my eyes to the potential with drum kit, like so many cool musical styles that I could get into and learn and enjoy. So it was really cool.
Were there books that these early teachers, you know, started taking you through? Was it kind of like that kind of a lesson?
Not so much. I did get Greg actually I've got it here. I'll just find it. He used this book a lot. He gave me handouts and things. He used this one, which is Drum Set Styles. Can you see that? It's that is by John. I can't pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. Tomakos. I'm not sure of his last name, but yeah, it's a
Is that from a teacher in New Zealand area? Is that a
No.
I don't know that book.
No, it's got just lots of different styles and interpretation and listening in it. You know, it's from the US, I believe, but yeah, I'm not sure whereabouts. I have to look into that, and I'll see exactly where it's from. Yeah,
check it out, because I'd want to get it to see it. That looks pretty interesting. So here you are now. You're starting to get some lessons. Were there bands that you started to play with at this time?
Not immediately. I went to the course with that Greg recommended, and it was really funny because I started this course. I would have been 29 years old, and I went along to this course, and my classmates some of them were 10 years younger than me. You know, they just graduated high school, and I mean, no worries, they're awesome. We got along great, but it was really interesting because a lot of them had grown up with music. And so I came along to the first day, and the very first day we got put in bands to do a performance, like an orientation performance. And I'm there like, oh my goodness, I've never played drum kit in a band in my life. And there's all these like young, kids that, you know, teenagers and young, you know, early 20s, people in the early 20s who are like, yeah, and they're just rocking into it. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So luckily I saw the funny side. It was quite hilarious. And I just, you know, I just did my best and got in there and worked hard, and I sort of settled into it. You know, basically sometimes you just got to do it, you know, just don't worry about it. Just jump in there. So
listen, you jumped in and you learned to swim real fast. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny, you mentioned John Michelli before. John Michelli took some lessons with me many, many years ago. And John is a phenomenal drummer, and he's still out playing and doing, you know, performances and gigs. And it's just amazing to see that. And he's still a student of the art form. So if he ever gets near you into New Zealand, you make sure you contact me, and I'll connect you with John Michelli to go hear him play and do his thing. He's a phenomenal player.
That'll be awesome.
You know, we have on here, Kat, I'm going to go down to some of the lists here. We've got some people that have joined us from all around the world. We've got some people you might even know, Roger Nuncio, Tasman Edge.
Yes, that's Tasman Edge. That's Nick. He's one of my students. He's awesome. He's an adult student, and I also teach his young daughter. She's just turned 7, so yeah.
Fantastic. Peter Helms, Joel Jr., Dylan Poole, and you know, big hug from Australia. We've got Arthur, who is hello, Dom and Kat. Hello from Ufa, Russia.
Wow.
We've got fantastic. Marina is a wonderful female player from Cyprus. and she's involved in some of the classes that I do for Maxim Dioman, who's a phenomenal teacher and educator in the Ukraine, and he organizes the master class that I do each week. And Marina is there, and she's a phenomenal student of learning. And again, another great female involved in this craft. John Gill is a top educator from upstate New York, from Oneonta. He's joined us here. Andrew Lamarche. We've got Wyland from Brazil. This is incredible to see. The Sabian people are here, which usually is the president, Andy Zildjian, who's on here saying, hello, Kat and Dom. Welcome, everyone. Bill Sabia is up here, too. Bill's a wonderful drummer who, every once in a while, I see his videos that he performs. Just absolutely fantastic how he's playing. So Simon Bijaring, who is here. Simon is originally from Denmark, now living upstate New York. He got married. He's got a couple of kids. From Indonesia, Paulus Bab. From the Ukraine, we've got people. I mean, this is incredible. Tasman Edge was saying he has the Meatloaf on 8-track. So Tasman is really starting to show his age on that one, because I can relate to that with the 8 tracks. Bruno Muse, who's a wonderful drummer from Antwerp, Belgium. So we've got some people that are joining us here, which I think is so great. Tim Connolly from Canada. This is so great. Joe Bergamini, of course, has joined us, as he always does, in doing this here, who's the manager of the SEN program. So you've got a wide variety of people now that are listening. Manton Daly also has joined us here. Manton, thanks so much for joining us. So what's great about this is that we have these people that are joining us here to get to know who you are and what you do. So here's your life story of, you started at a later age. I think that is so freaking great that you had that level of passion and that you have faced your challenges by being older doing it. But now you're teaching, 70 plus students a week. You're in several different bands. I mean, you really have done this incredibly well.
Yeah, I've the whole starting later thing. It did bug me for quite a while, because you get a lot of people saying, if you start later, your potential is perhaps limited because you haven't had those formative years playing. But I'm just like, well, we'll see. And I just, I've worked really hard. Like I do a lot of practice, and I take every opportunity I can, because yes, I've had to play catch up in many ways. When I was in pipe band, I played solo contests, and so which were very nerve-wracking for me as an adult beginner when I first started. And I found my very first solo contest, I was 20 years old, and I was in the novice grade, and my competitors were all 9 and 10 years old. And I was like, right, I was like, okay, I'm very competitive too. So I was like, I'm going to get you guys. And I came second to a 10-year-old, and I'm like, oh, this isn't happening again. So, lovely wee guy, and he's an adult now. Don't get me wrong, lovely, cool kid. But I was like, oh, I can't believe you beat me. And so, and then I just sort of, I went up through the grades. So we started in novice, and solos, you got to A grade solos. So that was my goal, to get up to A grade, where the grade 1 band players were playing, and it's sort of like great, sort of, from to play against people who were sort of my own age. So I did that. And so yeah, it's just about really being focused and going after what you want to do. Like if you want to do it, you do need to be really committed. If you start later, if you want, well, depending, I mean, if you want to get to a professional level, you certainly do need to be committed. But again, I teach adult students. I've got a few now, and it's really fun. And a lot of them, they come to me and they say, look, I've just always wanted to play drums, and now my kids are a bit older, or I've got a bit more time. I'm going to do it now, and it's fantastic. And we have a lot of fun playing songs and just basically getting fundamentals of technique so that they can execute what they need to play and have a lot of fun playing the songs that they want to play. So.
Well, this is cool. Really fantastic. What's great about it is that there are many, many drummers who started later in life. I know for a fact that Jim Chapin didn't start till he was like 18, almost 19 years old from day one, and was able to develop a career and write method books that are still used today, and perform with tons of different big bands at the time, and had a performance career and a teaching career that he lived all of his life up until almost to the age of 90. He passed away 2 weeks shy of his 90th birthday, still actively performing. So there are, that dedication and commitment you definitely have. And we've been doing lessons now for a while. And I want people to know that when I set up a lesson with Kat, we set up where it's 5 o'clock my time on a Friday night, and it's 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand on Saturday. So we had to kind of find a time that would work for both of our schedules. And this is kind of what the global scheduling happens with online teaching. And we've been doing this for a while. Now, talk about, just in some of the lessons, in some of the books that we've been through and that you've gone through, because you really have committed to going through the core of these books, stick control and accents and rebounds and Chapin and New Breed. I mean, you're really kind of dove into this here full on.
Yeah. So I've got what I do is in the morning, I'll just get them out here. Here we go. So in the morning, I play on my drum pad for an hour or so, sometimes a little longer depending. And I'll go through stick control, accents and rebounds. And then I've got It's Your Move, of course, and Master Studies, and also the All-American snare drummer, the solos from there. So I'll work on, generally I go through, if I've got an hour, I'll go through, I'll do 3 books a day and sort of rotate which 3 I do. So I'm spending an appropriate amount of time on each book. And so that's how I work that. And then I have New Breed, of course. And I have Jim Chapin's advanced techniques for the modern drummer book that I work on in the afternoon on drum kit. And I've also just got I'm getting into big band drumming now. It's something reasonably new for me. I play in a local big band. I've been doing so for a year. I've always wanted to get into jazz drumming, and it's really, really fun. And I've been asked to actually play in another big band called just to cover for their drummer for 6 months or so. So that's the all-girl big band based here in Christchurch, and they're very, very good. So I need to make sure that I'm really on top of big band playing. So I've got another couple of books, The Drummer's Guide to Big Band, and also Buddy Rich Play-Along book that I'm starting to work from as well.
Boy, this is great. The Drummer's Guide to Big Band, which is written by Gary Williams, is another very helpful book to help you set up certain figures and get through it. Gary, who's from Seattle, Washington area, is a phenomenal big band player. And myself and Joe Bergamini, who are the publishers of that book, kind of pushed Gary to put together a big band book to get this happening, because we felt there should be more product in just that ability to be able to understand how to play with a big band. So as we go through this here, and the Buddy Rich stuff, which is great, is that those are some charts that I had gotten from Buddy never really had drum charts written. He didn't read music, and he would listen to the song and play it. So there weren't really that many drum charts for any of Buddy's tunes. So I had a friend of mine many, many years ago transcribe what would have been drum charts for Buddy's band. And I sent you the charts. You have the charts, and we're working on it now. And we're taking these tunes apart between Gary's book and you listening to big band stuff and Buddy's stuff. You're stepping into this big band world pretty heavily now. This is really great.
Yeah.
And we'll work on tunes like Groovin' Hard or Big Swing Face, or, and as we work on that. But you're really starting to get a feel for this. You're really starting to understand the driving force of what a big band requires from a drum set player. So just talk about, when you're working on some of these tunes, what it's like playing some of this big band style.
Well, for me, it's very, in terms of interpreting the charts, that's sort of been my main challenge over the past year, because I've jumped in and it's like, and I've come from pipe band where everything's written out. You play what's on the page. Then suddenly I've got a page, and sometimes it's just sort of rhythm slashes for the whole page with a couple of figures written above, and I'm like, what do I do? So I've been figuring, I figured that out, and then now it's getting the setups and making sure that I'm really doing my job for the band, so that I'm cueing certain figures and things. And so I'm really trying to, increase my, increase my competence with that, with, my confidence with that as well. Because one of the things you said in one of our last lessons, Dom, is I need to be assertive. I need to, really lead the band. And so I've been working on that a lot, and just really getting into playing, playing strong and all, with dynamics, of course, and just having fun with getting used to sort of filling around the figures and keeping that groove. And then also, of course, the independence that's involved, getting, hands and feet, and really making the most of that. And that's where Chapin's books really, it's already helping me, and it's going to help me even more as I keep working on it, and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's really great because, playing with a big band, and for me, there's an excitement in playing with big band that when you're behind this 15 or 18 or 20 piece band of musicians with, trumpets and sax and trombones and a keyboard, you got a guitar player, bass player, when all of this sound comes together and you play a figure, but and when you hit that crash on the end of 4 and you hear all of these musicians hit it at the same time, there's a high that comes with playing big band where it's like, and of course, your cymbals, and what I love, and we'll talk about all your Sabian cymbals here. When that brass of that cymbal hits the brass of that sound and it blends together, there is a chill that goes through your body that just, you can feel this whole band lift an audience to a higher level. Now, when we speak about playing assertive, as you've mentioned so wonderfully, assertive is about taking control, but being polite. Aggressive person is gets what they want, but they get it in a negative and aggressive way. An assertive person gets what they want, but being very polite. That's the difference. And what you've been doing so well is by us working on some of the Chapin stuff to give you that independence. And this was, again, the brilliance out of the mind of Jim Chapin, Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer. This book just gives us the facility to be able to have that kind of movement. And then once we kind of get through Chapin, then we're going to open up the John Riley books, his Art of Bop Drumming and Beyond Bop Drumming. That's kind of like the next stage after Chapin to kind of keep this thing going. So we're on a journey now of getting you so prepared. I want you to sit in with that big band and just kick some tail.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So in playing some of the stuff, so the other big band that you have is more of a, I don't want to say a community big band, but it's probably, I think it's made up of older musicians, right?
Yeah. It's based out in Leiston, which is a small town, sort of half an hour out of Christchurch, and it is. A lot of the musicians there have been playing they've been playing together for years. And so it's a really lovely bunch of people that are really friendly, and they just love to play. And so it's very relaxed. It's just a great place to sort of get familiar with big band and to get started, to get sort of established, and get used to playing that style. They're all really friendly and supportive. So yeah, and the band director Matt Davis, he's a great local musician. He's fantastic on the saxophone, and he's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays a lot of instruments, but he's really cool. Yeah.
So what's great about it is that you have this band, which I always loved it by when I played with bands where the musicians were a little older than me. Listen, that's a great school of learning. These musicians have been around for a while. They know how to swing, they know how to play. And when they come in, you're this is like the University of Big Band. You're learning in every note that you're playing in the process. And this other big band now is an all female band, right?
Yeah.
And they're probably, at in how they play, you're going to learn different things from them also.
Yeah. Because those guys, the all-girl big band is made up of a lot of professional musicians and music teachers. So it's really, really tight, and it's going to be really fun to play with them, and to basically explore a new genre from what I've been playing up until quite recently. So I'm really excited for it.
Boy, this is fantastic. We've got some people here, which is so great. Let's see what this here. let's show this one here. Arthur is a phenomenal drummer who is in a part of my lessons that I teach in the drummers, students from the Ukraine and Russia and Cyprus, and he's got a wonderful son, that Daniel, that is also now taking up drums and being motivated to play the drums. But he said in here, "What's your favorite exercise for the book? It's Your Move."
I really like the rough exercises, or the single stroke 4 patterns. I use them as a warm up quite a lot, and I've actually I like making up little grooves based on that page. I use 4-stroke roughs and single stroke 4s a lot when I'm messing around with my drum kit rhythms. I on my Instagram I put little ideas up with the aim of I'm going to write them down and transcribe them and ultimately put them together into a resource for my more advanced students, and even some of my my beginner intermediate students, simplify the ideas down and so they can be introduced to sort of applying rudiments creatively on the drum kit. So yeah, no, I do like the single stroke 4.
That's fantastic. It's funny when I've got many students around the world that are going through the book, and it's kind of exciting to see how everyone interprets it differently in what they do, and just the advantages that all of these books have. Talk about the Chapin book and what you're going through with that.
So I'm working on. Let's see, where did I put? I've put it over there, haven't I? Of course I have. So pretty much I'm doing the bass and snare drum independence, and I'm also working on playing the swing whilst keeping straight eighth notes underneath the swing. That's sort of the point I'm at with that as well, and then also thinking a bit more melodically with it, and because Dom, you gave me some of the tunes that were actually that go alongside the exercises, so listening to those and really hearing how the exercises relate to the melody, so I can take that and apply it in my big band playing as well.
Boy, that's fantastic. Now we're going through New Breed, and there have been some great drummers that have gone through New Breed. Guys like Dave Weckl and all these phenomenal players that's still going through it. It's the kind of book like the Chapin book. You just don't finish these books.
Yeah,
these books are going to be around with you for the rest of your playing life. So talk about New Breed, a little bit about New Breed.
Well, New Breed's a challenge. I could just leave it there. The systems, I find that it's really helping me with independence. Because I'm left-handed, I'm really keen to develop my open-handed playing more. I learned playing on a right-handed kit, and I learned cross-handed because, well, that's how my brother played, and so that's how I picked up drum kit. But now I'm doing some more open-handed work, and that New Breed's really helping with that because it opens up all 4 limbs really, really effectively, and also it's helping with my reading because you're reading the melodies. And you're applying the systems there as well. So it's just being able to sight read. It's helping me with that as well quite a lot. So fantastic book, especially if you want a challenge.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So talk about being a lefty now. I love the fact that when I have a student that comes to me who is a left-handed person that plays a right-handed kit, that offers such an advantage to playing open-handed, to have that level of lowering your hi-hat and playing that way and having the freedom of your right hand move around the drums. That kind of opens up a whole nother level. And again, so many open-handed players like Billy Cobham and Simon Phillips and Klaus Hessler. There are so many great players that play that way. Will Kennedy, that are just absolutely fantastic players. And all these lefties that are out there that I'm teaching now are just starting to accept this to such a high level. So how does it feel when you make the switch to play open-handed? What's that feel like?
It's getting more comfortable now. It used to feel a little bit, so you sort of switching sides a little bit. Now I'm actually finding with some of the stuff I'm playing, especially when I'm playing around with Latin, I like to play Latin and switch as an exercise. I'll play some Wallenco or some Mambo or some other Latin stuff, and I'll switch my left hand and play the pattern with my I've got a ride here on my left as well. So but I'm finding some things I'm able to execute better with my left hand on the ride now, and it's like, oh man, but it still doesn't quite feel as comfortable to play as when I play it leading with my right, but it's easier to execute. So I'm just getting to the point where it's, yeah, I could go either way kind of thing. So I guess that's promising. So
Well,
yeah.
that's very promising, and that actually is a huge step forward. As I say in my lessons, when you start to feel the fact that it's not this, it's starting to become more like this. When you
Yeah.
start to see advantages on either side. And listen, playing open-handed doesn't mean we're going to play lefty. It just means we're not going to cross our hands. When you play the ride cymbal to your right, that's also open-handed. So hi-hat to your left, that's open-handed. So it becomes a matter of not so much about thinking righty or lefty. If both hands become equal, it's a matter of what sound do you want.
Yeah.
If you want a sound where you're playing hi-hat and you want to have your right hand get around, you'll use your open-handed playing. Having a ride cymbal to your right the way you have it also works well too. Your right hand is more developed. And when you're playing some of the big band jazz stuff, you need to have that confidence in your right hand playing jazz time to kind of get you through the charts. So having both of them at your disposal is really an incredible advantage to what you have. Boy, that's fantastic. We got a question here. Let me show you this here. Tim Conley, who's a wonderful drummer and teacher up in the, I think he's not that far outside of Toronto area in Canada, and real good player. Also took some lessons with me. He's asking, how do you like the online lessons versus in-person lessons?
Well, I think in terms of in-person lessons, I obviously haven't had the chance to have any with you, Dom. One day I'll get to New York and I'll visit you. But I think for nowadays, the fact that I'm fortunate to have a really good internet connection where I am, and Dom, your connection is always fantastic. So it's very it's almost as if we're in the same room, because you're able to demonstrate and I can see what you're doing, and then I'm able to, you can see what I'm doing really clearly. I think for me as a mature student and as a sort of a more advanced player, it's really good for me. I would say for some of my younger students, because of course I also taught online during the lockdown, as pretty much everyone on here probably who's a teacher probably is doing or has done. I find with younger students, in person is, from a teacher's perspective, in-person lessons are still a lot easier, because you can communicate with the student a lot more effectively when you're in the same room with them. But in terms of what I'm doing, my lessons, online lessons are fantastic. And I used to get online lessons also when I was doing pipe band drumming. I'd get online lessons with Reed Maxwell, who's a amazing pipe band drummer. He lives in Vancouver, Canada, and he's the drum sergeant of the Simon Fraser University Pipe Band. And that was back a few years ago, and the lessons were still fantastic. I learned a lot from them. But when I was able to go to Canada and get lessons in person with him, there was a huge difference, because the technology wasn't at the point where it's at today. So it's quite, and technology is just going to keep moving forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing that develop as well.
Well, it's so exciting. And as we have done our lessons, to see you develop your studio the way it is. And just, if you would, just give us a little tour of some of the camera angles and what you're able to do from your studio now.
So I've got a couple of options for camera angles, just so that my students can get a better view of my kit. So I've got obviously this one here, and then what I can do is I can switch to this angle, so you can sort of see an overhead view of my kit. And then, because it's always really good to have, face-to-face communication, I do have it so that I can still be in the corner here, so I can still speak while I'm demonstrating something on the kit, and the students can still see my face, which I like. So they're my options. I would like to get a camera on my foot as well. I haven't got that far yet, but that's sort of the next step. I've run out of USB ports on my computer. But I'll work around that, and yeah,
Interesting.
I'll get a foot cam as well. That would be
And
cool.
what do you use to get that picture in picture? What program are you using for that?
I'm using a program called Minicam, which is, I've paid for like a standard lifetime license. You can get the free version, and you can still get that picture in picture thing happening, but you can't move it. So I can move it to where I want it on the screen. So you have to pay for that privilege. But yeah, you can try the free version and then see if it works for you. But I found it really, really good for what I'm doing here in the studio.
But you've done the research to find out what you need. This is what I'm impressed with, Kat. Here you are, in Christchurch doing the research. Is there anyone else that you know of in Christchurch that has a setup like this here with different cameras and different online teaching?
I'm not sure. I know my fellow teacher John O'Tressler. He's obviously was teaching online. I haven't seen his setup, but I'm again not too sure. I mean, I've had a bit of a background in television production as well, because when I wasn't allowed to, or I wasn't encouraged to study music as and I went to university for a year to do engineering, but then that wasn't going to happen, so I transferred to broadcasting school, and I did a degree in television production. So when I'm doing this teaching, I'm aware, and I really do want things to be professional and to be really good for my students, so that I can communicate and teach to maximize what I'm needing to communicate. So I did spend quite a bit of time over the lockdown. I started off with an electronic kit and a single camera, and then I just gradually sort of decided, no, I want to use my acoustic kit. I do have sound off pads that I do put on the snare and one of the cymbals sometimes when I'm teaching, because it just helps with the audio. I need to sort out my audio a little more. I just run off one overhead mic at the moment, and I know that I do have an interface, and I can run a full mic setup, but I just need to work out some of just fine tuning that with Zoom and things like that.
Well,
But yeah.
like anything else, this all takes time, and but I think from our lessons, you have moved pretty quickly to get yourself prepared to have this kind of setup, which works fantastic for the students that you're teaching, and there'll always be some fine tuning that we go on to in the course of time.
Yeah.
Even in my studio, I've been doing this for 25 years, this online teaching concept, and I've got a monitor behind me here. And when that monitor, I can put the lessons of the students, so I can sit on my drum set and see that monitor. I've got another monitor in front of me that I can see the student when I'm at my practice pad. So you kind of learn in time how to slowly build this up to give you the enjoyment that allows you to teach, so it feels like you are right there with the student.
Yeah.
That's a real big part of it. If you can, just talk about your cymbals. You've got some Sabian cymbals there that you've tracked down and purchased on your own to track them down. Just go to your overhead shot. Give us a little,
will do.
Little explanation of your cymbals here.
Cool. Let's just switch. If I switch to this one, you can see them all. There we go.
Yeah,
okay. So I've got, if we start here, I've got an HHX Evolution 20-inch ride on my left there, which again, a lot of my cymbals I've found on Trade Me, which is similar to eBay. It's a much smaller version in New Zealand. So that was a really good find there. I've got these hi-hats, which are HHX groove hats, which really nice. I like them. And this is, I've got an AAX Ozone Crash, which splash, not crash, which that one I actually bought off Amazon back before they introduced all the taxes for Kiwis. So that's really, I like that one. And then I've got this is an HH, it's a duo crash. I actually got this one for my student kit because it's got a really nice controlled sound, and it's not too dominant, so it's great for a smaller space. But I loved it so much, I'm like, nah, sorry kids, this one's mine. So I take this one out to gigs, and I love the sound of that. It's fantastic. And then my artisan I got a 20-inch artisan ride here. Again, a great find. I found this one secondhand. Yeah, I really love the sound of that one. And then I have my HHX Evolution crash here. I got this one off Amazon as well. This was actually one of the first cymbals that I bought because I started off with my brother's drum kit, which had entry-level cymbals on it, and I really wanted to get something sort of up the next level that would sound really nice. And so the hi-hats and this crash were the first nice high quality cymbals that I bought. So yeah,
that's fantastic. So just tap. So you have an Artisan 20 and you have an Evolution 20. Of course, the Evolution is out of the mind of Dave Weckl. The Evolution, the legacy. So Dave's brilliance in his musicianship, comes through not only in his playing, but out of the mind of Dave Weckl, just some of the sounds that he chooses and develops, which is great. So that's the Evolution. Just tap each one of them to hear the difference of the tone. So by having those two ride cymbals, as I believe in too, two ride cymbals to me is totally where it's at. Now you have the option of playing right hand lead or left hand lead, and open handed when you go to that left ride, it really kind of opens up some opportunity that your left ride allows your right hand to kind of get around and play different things. So you really kind of widen the sound of the drums by having that left ride also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that is great. So, which to me is, I think that's the new 21st century way of being on the kit. Two ride cymbals, eventually two hi-hats, crashes, splash, Chinese cymbals. This to me gives us the variety of sounds that we're looking for in the process. I got a question here. This is from Marina. Marina is a phenomenal female student, drummer in Cyprus. Listen, if you think Christchurch is in the middle of nowhere, Cyprus is in the middle of nowhere, which is fantastic. And Marina is an absolute wonderful, wonderful person. And she's saying, do you have any rituals that you do before a gig? Are there any warm-up things that you do before a gig?
Pretty much what I'll do is, if the gig's local, I will play, I'll sort of warm up on my kit before I pack up and go to the gig. So I'll just play, get in the groove, and jam. And then when I'm, depending on the gig, often if it's a small pub or bar gig, that kind of thing, a club, I will play sort of some triplets and single strokes, double strokes, just run through some rudiments just on a drum pad or even on my drum stool, just playing just to get my hands going for when I jump in and play. But yeah, it is important, I feel, to warm up and make sure your hands are ready to go. And even my feet, I will just on the carpet just tap my feet, get my ankles warmed up as well. I don't currently play double pedal at gigs, but I'm working on my double pedal technique. There's an original song that John from Mutrix, one of the bands I play in, has written, and it's just calling out. I can just hear the double pedal in it when I hear the demo. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to work on that because that song needs it. So yeah. Which
we'll do. We have gone through stick control with your feet, and you're feeling the development of what that's done for you.
Yeah.
So I think your feet are well prepared for it, and as we get more into double pedal playing, it becomes really comfortable that there are certain ideas that just seem to fit better when you have two pedals that you can drive that groove for what it needs. So so you'll do practicing stuff on a practice pad and your feet. Fantastic. Marina, thank you so much for that question. Thank you. So with this, it really is kind of amazing, Kat. You've accepted this journey of modern drum set playing. You are taking lessons, again, online lessons, in how it is. And not only is it the lessons that we do online, but you're also teaching online this way. I mean, you really have kind of accepted and embraced technology. And you've also embraced the fact that now from around the world, we can study with people that really might not live in our country or even in our village, but yet the world brings us all closer. And that's just how the drumming community is. Yeah.
No, I really love watching these for me it's every Friday and Saturday morning. I love watching and listening to drummers from all around the world, and just hearing sort of how they, their background and how they teach, and what resources they use and their setups. It's really fantastic.
What a great way to open our minds. Check this out. Rick Stojek, who is a phenomenal teacher also in the California area. Great player. He's got some great drum books that are out too. Do a little research on Rick Stojek and his books out. He's got some great educational material. But he said, check out Gene Hoglan. Now, I've known Gene for many, many years. Gene is now in a band called Testament. And Gene, oh my gosh, he was with Death, and he's just got so many great, powerful bands. But Gene has a couple of DVDs out, Atomic Clock. Gene plays 2 double power bell rides on his drum set and drives the band with this incredible. He's also an open-handed player in the metal field. So these are how we learn about all these different guys. Boy, Rick, thank you so much for bringing that up here. That really is great to kind of see that.
Cool.
There are some great players that have double rides in what they're doing. And I think, Kat, what you have there in this setup really is going to allow you to start to step into the big band world so great, because you can go right-hand lead or left-hand lead. You really have some options ahead of you that are allowing you to play with all different styles. And the cover bands that you play with are doing all different types of cover tunes.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you have, and you're talking about your website. What's your website? Is it catwalldrums.com?
Yeah.
I love the logo that you have of a little cat. You really, with a name like Catherine, you really kind of branded that little cat to have in your logo. So catwalldrums.com, I ask people to go there, and then, search you on Facebook and Instagram, and follow Kat. Go follow her, and, like what she's doing. Check it out, listen to it, be in communications with it, because this is how we bring the world together as drummers, one by one, step by step.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I find that I just love looking at other drummers online and seeing what everyone's up to. So yeah, it's fantastic. Really cool.
This is fantastic. I got to put one more question up here from Tasman Edge. First of all, Tasman Edge is a great stage name. So
it is. Yep.
That's a great Tasman Edge. There's a certain sound to that. Kat, if you could jam to only one song on your kit, what song would it be and why? If you had one tune you had to choose.
Oh, that's a tricky one. It would depend what mood I was in. I would see jamming to a song. I really like jamming to the likes of classic Meatloaf, like Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Some of the Better to Hell the musical tracks. Again, Jim Steinman, again Meatloaf related. But honestly, Nick, I'm going to have to think about that one.
Well, the point that you're saying is very, very good. It depends on what mood you're in at that time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's a very, very fair answer, because, listen, you might be in a big band head, you might be in a Meatloaf head. Who the heck knows where we're at that time? But as long as you can sit down and have fun jamming to it, that is what it is all about.
Yep, absolutely.
Tasman, thanks so much. Kat, it's always a pleasure when I have people like yourself on here, because it gives a chance for the world to kind of discover what you do and where you are and who you are. So I want people to follow you on social media, go to your website, check out what you're doing, be in touch, and communicate with each other. Communicate back and forth, so you start talking to people. Tim Conley is talking about he's got a new student who's 84 years old, the oldest student he's ever had. Just curious, what approach do you have with older students?
Pretty much. First of all, I ask them, what's encouraged them to come for lessons, and what they'd love to be able to do on the kit, and I will design my lessons around that. I mean, they often older students will come in saying, "Man, I want to be able to play these songs," and so that's what we'll do. We'll start working. I always take students through drum pad exercises, because even if they say to me, I only want to learn songs, I say, well, if we work on your hands and your technique here, it's going to help you facilitate that playing on the kit so much more effectively, and it's going to be easier and more fun for you to play the songs you want to play if you have that foundation. So we'll do that, and then we'll I've had a wonderful student who's just started fairly recently, a few weeks ago, and he's given me a list of songs that he really loves. And so what we do is we do some technical work on the drum pad, and then we jump onto the kit, and we'll learn rhythms that are related to the songs that he wants to learn. So he learns the groove first, and then we'll work on jamming the groove to the song. We won't worry about fills for a start. We'll just jump in on the groove, and then we'll work on counting and understanding subdivisions and fills, and we'll bring that in. So we're kind of building up to the song whilst basically playing the song from the first lesson or two. So that's how I approach with adult students, because they do have that goal usually of learning songs.
Well, that's actually a great point. And no matter what age they are, they're going to want to learn songs from the era that brings them joy. So find out what that is, work with them on that, and develop that. That's a great, great suggestion. Kat, you are first class all the way. You really kind of get it. You get the playing end of it. You get the dedication end of it. You get the practicing end of it. You get the complete commitment to this art form. And the educational side, you're right out there at the cutting edge. So I thank you so much. You have done fantastic. This is great on behalf of Sabian and all the wonderful opportunities that we have from their network of thousands of people around the world, that we get a chance to go out there and have these different, discussions. Again, this is on the Facebook and the YouTube channel. We'll go on there. You guys can share it. Keep it going on there. Thank you all so much. Kat, you've done fantastic.
Thank you so much, Dom. And thanks to Joe as well and Sabian. It's been a real honor. I'm really happy to have been able to do this interview today. So thank you so much.
This is great. From Christchurch to the world. Bring it on. I love it.
Excellent. And thanks so much, everyone who's tuned in to listen. I'm seeing some of your comments coming up on the side, so I'll be sure to read through them afterwards as well. So thank you so much, everyone.
Absolutely. And Kat, we see your name pop up too. So now when your name pops up on the stream, everyone's going to know who you are, man. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Excellent. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great, great week.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next week. Thanks.